In today's World Insight, artificial intelligence on steroids are the real dangers to the rapid advance of AI. Too much too soon without regulations. Professor Yaqin Zhang gets us up to speed on the benefits and pitfalls of AI breakthroughs.
So our mission is really to do research and then really solve real problems.
Hello and welcome to World Insight with me, Tian Wei. Chat GPT and other text-generating chatbots demonstrate how AI development has accelerated. The speed of AI development has already caused George Hinton, often dubbed as the godfather of AI, to quit Google to air his concerns. Meanwhile, we also see Tesla CEO Elon Musk and a few thousand signed a letter recently in March calling for a halt to developing AI more powerful than GPT-4, the machine behind Chat GPT. So, is AI dangerous as these headlines suggest? Are we on a precipice of an AI takeover? How to grasp the directions of technological innovation in today's complex international environment? We ask all these questions to one of China's premier AI experts, Zhang Yaqin, Dean of the Institute of AI Research at Tsinghua University. Here's our conversation.
Our center started just about 3 years ago. It's based on artificial intelligence. The goal is, of course, is to enable industry and advance the society. As we,
Grand goal.
That's right. And want to make sure AI really benefits the entire industry. Because this is a tool and can help productivity, can help the industry to achieve a much higher efficiency. In a sense, we have 3 different categories, which I think where AI can play the most role and then have the biggest impact. First is advanced robotics and autonomous driving. The second is Internet of Things, particularly using AI to lower the carbon emission and also to improve energy efficiency, renewable energy. And the third is to use AI for life science, inventing new drugs and also to improve health. I think AI can really play a critical role in all 3 categories.
You got a lot of young professors coming from Tsinghua working with you.
That's right. So when we started, we just had a few professors. In the last 3 years, we recruited about 25 world-class professors. A professor, of course, they have a very strong academic credential, but also lots of them have a very extensive work experience.
That's so important, isn't it?
For example, Professor Li, he worked for industry for almost 30 years. And before he joined us, he was the Vice President of Technology and Head of AI for ByteDance. Professor Zhao Feng was the CTO of Hire for 4 years, and also was a professor at Stanford and worked at Microsoft. Most of our labs not even here. For example, all the autonomous vehicles, they're just too big. And we have to try new things in the actual space.
Oh, have you ever driven some of those?
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. Driverless cars is actually one of our biggest programs. And we work with companies like Baidu and Didi.
Yes.
I'm still the chairman of Apollo, which is the largest autonomous vehicle platform in the world. We have 1,000 cars driving all over the place. And right now, we not only use AI for cars, advance the sensor, advance the algorithms, but also we use the road information, the information from the city infrastructure to make the drive even more safer.
I would love to come back to you about driverless cars. That would be fascinating.
That would be great. probably going to bring you to Yizhuang, where we have hundreds of cars already.
Test drive.
That's right.
Yes, that's cool.
Well, the good thing is there won't be any drivers. So you're going to be yourself sitting in a car, and then going to bring you to the right place.
That's wonderful. I'm always looking forward to that.
So our mission is really to do research and then really solve real problems. So that's why we work with the industry very closely. So there are really two parts of this. One is the Air core. That is core research and core technology. And then we also have the Air Plus. That is the model how we engage with industries. So we can transfer technology, we can build new companies, and we can innovation centers. So that has a lot of engineering focus. The L core is more of scientists, professors, and students. So those two parts actually we work really closely to making sure our research can result into real products and get to the market.
So this is like a product you're building, isn't it?
That's right. That's right.
You're a scientist, you said to think in a scientist way, but you're also a manager trying to bring more prospect into the system.
That's right. That's right.
But things are evolving so fast, you always have to bring in new elements in it.
That's right. That's right. That is it's great to do things from 0 to 1. I did this quite a few times, and this is just to repeat that, to build things from just a notion from nothing, and to see your dream come true, what you envision come true.
Professor Zhang, what a good pleasure to see you once again.
Likewise, it's great to see you.
You may remember there was an open letter earlier signed by some scientists and some of the entrepreneurs asking dynamic questions regarding the human relationship with AI in the future. If I could also invite your opinion very quickly, on some of these questions. Should we automate away all the jobs, including the fulfilling ones?
No.
Okay. Should we develop non-human minds that might eventually outnumber, outsmart, and replace us?
No.
Should we risk a loss of control of our civilization?
Absolutely not.
Well, these, of course, were the questions asked in the open letter, well known now to everyone in the world. But, the development of AI is really amazing. But how, from scale 0 to 10, would you say the latest development in the overall process?
Well, I will put an 8 out of 10, especially with Chat GPT and the whole GPT series. That is certainly an iconic engineering marvel in the sense for the first time, it's probably passed the Turing test. Turing test, of course, this has been a conjecture for over 70 years. I think this is probably the first software that really passed that particular test. And also it is a new system that leads to the artificial general intelligence. This whole software, Chat GPT, and also the later development, GPT-4 and others, can do a lot of things. It actually has a general knowledge or a common sense, if you will, in terms of what the world is all about. And so based on huge pre-trained models, but it also can solve a lot of other problems with fine-tune your domain knowledge. So for the first time, it has become a common knowledge AI.
The beauty of unpredictability of AI is really something. On the one hand, we hope it will be able to solve a lot of problems for us. On the other hand, we do not know how it's going to interact with the human society.
Right.
That's the beauty of it, isn't it?
That's
what about for scientists like you? What does that beauty speak to you?
Yeah. Well, I remember we had a similar conversation back
several years ago.
That's
yes.
right. Yeah. When AlphaGo came about, that was 2016. So that was already 7 years ago. And we had a similar discussion. To a certain extent, all the issues, concerns, and excitement have not gone away. Right? We just carry that until this day with a new development in AI. First of all, the power of AI is just tremendous, and it will help humans, but also there are concerns in terms of how we're going to pivot into the right direction, in terms of the type of negative impact that could bring to our society. I think we just need to be extremely cautious in terms of how we develop technology, how we apply this, and also the ethic issue, the governance issue, AI safety. And we as an institute, we do a lot of fundamental research. We develop a lot of foundational technology, but also we always put AI safety and the responsibility above all the technical and industrial efforts.
How do you see the technologies evolutionized over the past few months? It seems things are happening every 2 weeks.
Yeah, that is true. In the general direction of bigger models, better models, models are more aligned with human behavior and human value. We also look at this in terms of how it actually can achieve new tasks, can automate in terms of not only conversation, but also writing codes, and also able to help us to do a lot of the works that we cannot envision that today. For example, it will connect to the physical world. It will connect to the biological world. And so we need to be very, very cautious, careful in terms of how we actually make those connections. Because if it stays in the information world, it is okay. Right? If it helps you write letters, write an email, better summary, and it augments the capability to find information, I think that is great. But if it's going to control autonomous cars, if we're going to control robots, and also connects to critical information, like financial information, transaction information, we need to be cautious and also set some boundaries in between.
We already see some of the students we talked to earlier in the University of Tsinghua University. They were fascinated by this because they could use Chat GPT to do their homework. And then, of course, some students invented the tools in which they can check whether, yes, exactly, they've been using Chat GPT to do the homework. So it's like a martial arts competition in a way. But this is only small scale innovation. What is the larger scale innovation, the jump that you're expecting?
This whole GTP, or we call it a foundation model, right? It is actually a new operating system for the AI era. It's particularly in the AI, in the cloud side. So just like Windows for PC, like Android, iOS for your mobile phone, this is the OS for AI. So it's a new platform that you can build applications, can create a new ecosystem on top of that. So this is going to reshape the industry landscape in a very profound way. It's hugely exciting. So in the sense that you actually can use all those different models, pre-trained, so you don't have to train them again, combine with your own domain data, and then build your own application for your own specific needs. And also you can automate a lot of tasks. So this particular model can use other tools and it can do a lot of things. And so we're going to see just a lot of great applications, new business, new companies.
Very exciting, certainly.
Right.
But there is the geopolitics, as we see in our world today, together with many other complicated factors. So one of the things is whether AI or ChatGPT 4 and 5 continues, whether it will provide open source to users around the world. That's a very interesting question, isn't it? As a scientist, how do you see that possibility?
Right. Well, you always have a few different classes, right? Some companies will open the source, some don't. OpenAI actually initially had open source. Then, with the GPT-3 and later, they are not as open as it was. But there are other companies, open source. We see most companies actually open the data, the source, the model, and here in China, a lot of companies has also open the source and the model. For example, most of the models we built actually are open for the entire industry, for academia. So you will always see that open and close that work hand in hand and just move forward.
What do you see are the advantages and disadvantages for companies, for example, commercial entities, to provide the open source or not? Usually, if you were the CEO of a company, OpenAI, what would you say in terms of what and how, when to do that?
Yeah, I will respect different decisions.
Sure.
Open source, of course, it is open so others can build upon that, right? And you also receive benefits from the openness of others. But there are times certain companies you want to move with their own proprietary code. I think that is fine. We always have that model from the PC days and the mobile days. But overall, I would think open source and open innovation will continue to be the main trend. That will just increase the entire productivity and just make the industry move
Even
faster.
today.
Even today, that's right.
How would you compare some of the most biggest names already, OpenAI, of course, and some of the others, today on the international stage, the front runners? And how would you say the level of the systems developed by some Chinese entities, global companies, compared to their international counterparts?
Right. Obviously, OpenAI / Microsoft is ahead. It's ahead of everybody else, even ahead of Google, who actually Google / DeepMind, who is responsible for a lot of the fundamental innovation, right? Including, for example, transformers. The GPT transformer is actually invented by Google. So I see clearly OpenAI, Microsoft is ahead, with lots of companies slightly behind, with a little bit of latency. Chinese company actually are doing fine. Chinese company, if you look at in the bigger spectrum of things, the US and China are ahead of all the other countries. Chinese companies, if you look at the last few months, I see at least over a dozen different big language models being released or planned, right? Starting with Baidu and Alibaba, but also with essentially all the big tech companies. I often use a marathon as an analogy. With 42 kilometer marathon, we are in the 5th mile, so we are still early. So I think eventually China will be in the same path and be in the same place or even ahead, especially when you get to the application, implementation, get to scale. So if again going back to history, looking at mobile internet, right? China actually at a little bit later part, China is actually ahead of US in terms of the scale, in terms of connectivity, the experience. WeChat is a great product, and TikTok, short video, and the digital payment. China actually were ahead. So I think in the AI overall, I'm confident that China will become a very important player in the world.
When you talk about this, you talk with a lot of authorities, I think, because you work both earlier for Microsoft and also for Baidu, two of the front runners on the international and also the Chinese stage, isn't it? So how do you see the genes of a company in terms of being able to embrace a technology early at this stage and also be able to maintain its competitive edge throughout the process? Of course, earlier Microsoft and then Google come up, things like that. But what about the situation now?
Yeah, I don't think it's anything different, right? Obviously, U.S. A lot of the companies and universities were responsible for a lot of the early fundamental algorithm research, and China has been doing a great job in terms of innovate and implement it and also deploy this in large scale. And those are all different innovations. In the last few years, actually, China, particular universities, are doing some really innovative research, and so I think this will continue to move forward with research, academia, companies work together.
Now, your institute is very keen from day one to work with businesses. We also learned from the meeting by the Chinese Politburo last night that encouraging private entrepreneurs to flourish is still one of the key areas that the country is going to put an emphasis on. So how do you see the prospect? You work with Tsinghua, you work with private sector, you yourself has very much an international background. How does that work? Where do you think the synergy will eventually be?
Right. The innovation comes from all different fronts, from basic research, from a small company, a large company, but overall, moving the industry forward. Private companies are the main source of innovation because they build products. They're hugely agile. They have the best talents, and so I think China does absolutely the right thing, making sure that we continue to support entrepreneurs, support private companies, especially the tech companies and internet companies, because they are very, very experienced in terms of how to build a large-scale product. They have a huge computational infrastructure, a lot of GPUs. They also know how to compete both within China and globally. So I would think they are the center of innovation. And let's use market force. Let us work all together, but making sure we don't limit their ability to innovate.
As a scientist, how do you see the importance of dynamism? That everybody's energy will be, in a way, encouraged. That's, after all, the experiences of 40 years of reform and opening up, it seems. As a scientist, how do you see that? Where are we now?
Well, I actually, this whole, we talk about AI, especially the new foundation model, Chat GPT. I think this is a new source of inspiration. And, China thrives from embracing new technologies, from openness, from interaction with the rest of the world. I see that, especially since last year after the reopening, the post-COVID, I see a renewed enthusiasm and energy to move forward, to connect with the rest of the world, and also entrepreneurship. The source of success for China is openness, and it's reform, and it's the thrive of private companies.
Professor Zhang, if you think about the backdrop that we are facing today, probably is very different from when you went to universities and when you work for international companies and Chinese companies, which are international also. Today compared to then. Many things different. Geopolitics certainly is one of them, but not limited to that. Where do you see the direction of innovation is? And how do you see the attempts to take advantage of innovation under the current global backdrop?
Yeah, it was a long time when I went to school. But let me say this, in the last 20 years, the talent, the market, the overall geopolitics just have changed just so much. And unfortunately, the last 5 years, there was a strong sentiment against globalization. That is stupid, but that's what it is. Yeah. And also the whole containment or delinking of China, that to me is short-sighted. In the long term, I still believe in globalization. I believe in the force of innovation technology. But China right now, if you look, has some of the largest talent base, particularly in AI, in technology. China also has the right infrastructure, whether it's communication, data infrastructure, computational infrastructure, and also has the scale. And also Chinese companies know how to build products, know how to innovate, know how to compete, both in China and a global scale. So I'm very confident that.
So you seem to have all the components there.
That's right, that's right.
And the market, of course.
That's both the domestic market and the global market. Yeah, I just think this is a pivotal time that we need to just focus on innovation, focus on globalization. If others want continue us, and we need to make sure we reach out. We build our own friend circle, making sure we continue to do the right thing.
Finally, as a scientist, how do you see the unpredictable future? This is not in a negative way, but rather, for example, AI, you never know where it would go because it could go so many directions. And you never know what the end results, if there were any end results, would be. So how do you see unpredictabilities, and how do you work while at the same time do not know necessarily exactly what you're going to get, and yet you know that you're going to get somewhere?
Right. I think a part of the unpredictability is what excitement is all about. Right. We see just unlimited potential of the technology, and we see just tremendous power of technology. And obviously, again, we have to pivot the technical direction to the area and then to the place that serve human and make this world the better. So that is critically important. So let me use Turing laureate Alan Kay's words. The best way to predict the future is to invent it.
I love that. I see you're on your way.
That's right. Yes, absolutely. And we're super excited. Every day when I come to talk with the students, with our faculties, it just makes me so thrilled. And it's right.
Thank you so much, Professor Zhang. Always
You're
a
welcome.
pleasure.
Pleasure is mine.
And that's my conversation with Zhang Yaqin, one of China's premier AI experts. With that, we are coming to the end of today's program. You can find us on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. I'm Tian Wei on behalf of team. Thanks for being with us. See you tomorrow.